Hey everyone. Hope you had a awesome Thanksgiving, but it is now officially the best time of the year. Merry Christmas. Want to give you an update of what the next 3 weeks are going to look like at your DGs this Christmas season, okay? And so this upcoming Wednesday, December 2nd, you will be back meeting at your host homes, talking about this teaching video that I will get started here very shortly. And so will the following, December 9th, will also be just a normal DG as you know it, discussion time with your group at your host homes. And we're hoping for those 2 weeks to be great discussions as we enter this holiday season. And then that third Wednesday, December 16th, I believe, is going to be your DG Christmas party with your group at your host home. And your leaders will have more information on exactly what that will look like for your group. But go ahead and put that on your calendar. Make sure that you are available that Wednesday night as well as the next two following ones. So the next 3 Wednesday nights, DGs are happening at your host homes. If you're not sure where, connect with your leader, connect with your host, and or ask me or someone on our staff, and we will get you pointed in the right direction. All right. So like I said, it's the Christmas season, best time of the year. We're excited for these next 2 weeks. Me and Bradley are going to highlight one of our favorite Christmas movies. And then, of course, we're going to make a teaching moment out of it. All right. And so if you are anything like me and my family, we actually started listening to Christmas music and watching Christmas movies like when the calendar hit November 1st. And I know that's kind of a no-no for a lot of people, but that's just what we do, right? As soon as November hits, we're looking forward to Thanksgiving, yes, but we are also looking forward to Christmas. And since we've already had such a head start, I think we have watched the new animated Grinch movie about 6 or 7 times already. And guys, if you have not already seen it, it is so good. And by new, I mean like 2018, all right? It just recently came out 2 years ago. It's on Netflix right now. It is the Benedict Cumberbatch version, all right, of The Grinch. And that is an amazing name, by the way, Benedict Cumberbatch. Anyways, great name, great name. But I grew up loving the Jim Carrey version of The Grinch. I thought it was hilarious. There's so many great quotes in that movie. And so generally, as a father now, I like to show my kids the things that I loved as a kid. All right, my kids are 5 and under right now, and they were absolutely terrified of the real life Grinch, the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch. It gave them nightmares. They were terrified. They were scared. They wanted nothing to do with it. So when this newer one came out 2 years ago, I hopped all over it, right? I wanted to show my kids the Grinch story because I absolutely love it. But when I took Charlotte to the theaters to see this movie 2 years ago, but now we've watched it a million times at home since it's on Netflix, and I love this newer version of it. And it's a little bit different. One, like I said, it's not as terrifying for toddlers. And then two, the Grinch's story is so different in this newer one. And I'm going to give away some, but not all of it. So if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it too much. But in the Jim Carrey version that I grew up on, this Grinch is just jaded and terrified, has this horrible backstory because of this troubling shaving moment he had in like elementary school or middle school. But in this newer one, the Grinch is instead his view of the holidays is so negative and jaded because he grew up in an orphanage and he was simply jealous and angry that he did not have family warmth and gathering and joy during the Christmas season. As you could probably imagine, that would be very tough on a child. And so he grew up, right? His heart was 2 sizes too small. He hated Christmas. He wanted nothing to do with it. Y'all know a lot of the Grinch story, but enter Cindy Lou Who, all right, the real goat of the Grinch story, and her joy and kindness just starts to kind of show Grinch what the Christmas season is really about. And towards the end of the movie, all right, Cindy Lou Who goes up to the Grinch and says, "Hey, you've been alone too long. All right, please come over." She invites him to her family and her friends' Christmas dinner. And of course, the Grinch is hesitant to go, but he goes, and he's just so overwhelmed by the friendliness and the kindness of everyone there. And then before dinner, he stands up and he wants to say a few words. And he looks at Cindy Lou Who's mom and he says, "Your daughter's kindness has changed my life." And I was just like, oh, this is so. I didn't start being emotional watching movies until I had kids. For whatever reason, as soon as you have kids, specifically daughters, you start becoming a bit more emotional. But anyways, the narrator shows up, or the voice shows up and says, "Hey, the Grinch raised his glass and he led the Who's in the toast." And then the Grinch said, "To kindness and love, the things we need most." All right. And here's the application. One, watch the movie. That's your homework. Watch. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, you can watch it that way. Watch the movie. But two, the application from this movie is so much different than other Grinches. It's kind of the same. It's same but different, if that makes any sense. And it truly highlighted how love and kindness can change people's lives. That love and kindness can alter the path of someone's life. And that seems so simple, and yet it's one of God's most important commands of loving others, but yet we struggle so hard with it. Proverbs 21:21 says this, and this is the verse we're going to kind of park in this week. Proverbs 21:21 says, "Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life." They will find life. They will find honor. All right. Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life. All right. Each one of our lives, right? The Bible calls it a race sometimes, right? We're on this race. We're on this path. And every single one of our lives is headed in a certain direction, right? Every step you take, you're headed in a certain direction. Every decision you make, you're headed in a certain direction. And this Proverbs 21:21 reminds us and is telling us that the path to true life, all right, life to the fullest, as Jesus said, is a path that includes you obeying God, being righteous, but also being kind to others. And that is the true life, right? This God's path for us, and his wisdom, he's telling us that, hey, you who listen and obey me through righteousness and kindness, you will find life, right? That is the life that I am calling you to live. But yet we know that that's really hard. All right, we are broken, sinful people. We have a hard time obeying God's commands. We are not righteous, not one of us. But enter Jesus, and that his righteousness can be seen through us because of what he did on the cross. And that whenever we surrender our lives to following and obeying his words, we start looking a little bit more and more like Jesus in our everyday life, right? That life is rewarded. The true life of righteousness and kindness, it's rewarded. And it's rewarded with a rich life that means so much, but it's hard. And it's often opposed and mocked, right? Think about our culture nowadays. Think about your friend groups. Think about the people in your peer circles, all right? We applaud when people make fun of other people. We laugh. We think it's funny. We think it's cool to show our dominance when a girl is prettier than we are or a guy is funnier than we are. So we knock them down to make ourselves look better. That is where we struggle to be kind to one another. And now this is a simple, right? It's a simple message. It's an easy message. But I was watching a TV show recently, and a Walt Whitman quote really stuck out to me. And the quote is this: "Be curious, not judgmental. Be curious, not judgmental." All right. And it struck me both emotionally, but also I was starting to think more about it. And I started to consider how much I rush to judgment. And I think when I do that, it doesn't serve me well. It doesn't help me when I rush to judgment instead of being curious. All right. Kids are really good at this. They don't judge people usually. They usually just ask questions of why they're that way, or why this is happening, or why that's a rule, or whatever. They don't judge necessarily right off the gate. They ask a lot of questions. And as we grow older, our our minds are mean-making machines, right? We just constantly make assumptions and judgments, and we look for these certain patterns that our culture just shoves in our face and that we don't even know that are there because we've been walking in it for so long. And this is a bad trait of us, right? It's a bad trait of me. I'm calling myself out on it too. All right. Our internal judgments hurt other people, right? So many people judge the Grinch for who he was, right? I know it's a fake story, but just run with me here because you know that it is true, right? We judge other people through the lens of what we think should be happening, or the lens of what we think is happening in that person's life, when we're not curious enough to draw near to that person and ask the hard questions of understanding what's going on in their life. So I'll leave you with this, all right? Proverbs 21:21. Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life. But also, what would it look like for us if we replaced our judgment with curiosity? Would we be kinder to others? Would we draw more near to others instead of making up what is happening in our heads through our lens and not understanding what that person is going through or who that person is? What would that look like? Right? What would your school look like? What would your friend group look like if we replaced our judgments with curiosity? All right. I've found recently, since that quote has just been resonating in my head, that I've had to check myself on that so many times to be more curious than judgmental. And in doing so, I have found that my assumptions are usually wrong and that being curious is much more enjoyable than being judgmental. And it's an energy saver. And so that's my application. That's my challenge this week. We're excited to dive into this Christmas holiday at your DGs, and we're praying for an awesome conversation Wednesday night.